the worst world champion in
Top
WWE
10
history?
world champion.
Well, before we get to number 1, let's start with number 10, Braun Strowman. In 2020, WWE finally pulled the trigger and made Braun Strowman a world champion, defeating Goldberg at WrestleMania 36 to win the Universal Championship. Just by watching this footage, you can see one of the main reasons Braun's world title reign was so bad. There were no fans.
No fans.
Now,
nothing.
obviously, that wasn't Strowman's or even WWE's fault, and that's one of the big reasons why I put Strowman low on this list. However, Drew McIntyre won his first world championship the same night as Braun and was in the exact same situation. However, for one, Braun's victory felt more emotional, even without a crowd, and two, McIntyre at least had some decent feuds and matches during his WWE Championship reign. Strowman had none of that. His match against Goldberg at WrestleMania didn't need to be for the Universal Championship to begin with, and the match itself wasn't anything special. The rest of Strowman's title matches weren't much better either. The one positive I will say is that the storyline he had with Bray Wyatt during the Universal title reign was good and done pretty well. Another reason I'm putting him pretty high on this list. But it only gets worse from here. So let's look at...
This one, Roman Reigns came back right there.
See more.
Roman Reigns came out and said, wreck everybody and leave.
Number 9,
he came and got that championship right back.
It pains me to say this, but all three of Rey Mysterio's world title reigns kind of sucked. Rey's first world title run happened in 2006. In the aftermath of Eddie Guerrero's passing, Mysterio entered the Royal Rumble at number 2 and lasted over an hour to win the match. He ultimately faced Kurt Angle and Randy Orton at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship, where Mysterio won in a really feel-good moment. Unfortunately, this was the highlight of the reign. While Rey would get victories over JBL and Randy, he lost a lot of matches. As world champion, Rey Mysterio lost to Rob Van Dam, Kurt Angle, Mark Henry, The Great Khali, and even freaking Finn lost to Rob Van Dam.
Look at Kurt Angle tossing this man like he's bro.
Henry matches.
Look how Kurt Angle tossed this man, bro.
Rob Van Dam, Kurt Angle, Mark Henry, The Great Khali, and even freaking Finn.
He lost to Finn as champion.
All clean victories, but didn't make Rey look like a particularly strong champion. And don't forget, during the world title reign, Rey Mysterio would have his infamous title match against Sabu. At ECW One Night Stand, Mysterio fought the death-defying Maniac in an Extreme Rules match for the World Heavyweight Championship. After a DDT through a table, a doctor said neither man could continue. This was all scripted, and was such a dumb way to end the match, especially considering this was an ECW show. Regardless, Mysterio would end up losing the world title to Booker T after Chavo Guerrero betrayed Rey. It was just an underwhelming world title reign. There weren't many memorable feuds, matches, or moments. Plus, as previously mentioned, Rey just looked like a chump, and the way the reign ended left a lot to be desired. However, about 5 years later, Mysterio would finally have world title gold around his waist again. A week after CM Punk defeated John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011 and left the company with the WWE Championship, WWE held a tournament to crown a new world champion. Rey Mysterio
lost that shit
of the July 25th, 2011
the same day he won it.
He was then forced to face John Cena in the main event, where Super Cena did his thing, and Rey never won another world title in WWE.
Same day he won it.
Though, I feel like this world title reign is better remembered than Mysterio's other run. I actually forgot about this, but in 2010, Rey Mysterio became a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion. The Master of the 619 won a Fatal 4-Way match, once again making him the owner of the big gold belt. However, only 28 days after winning it, Mysterio lost it. In his first title defense, Rey Mysterio fought the former champion, Jack Swagger. Rey won, but then Kane, who had won Money in the Bank, cashed in and beat the Masked Luchador. This title reign just felt so pointless.
It makes me want huge ass choke slam.
This title reign just felt so pointless. It makes me ask
Jesus.
the Masked Luchador.
You see that?
This title reign just felt so pointless.
Bro,
it makes me
Mysterio in the 6.
Mysterio win and lose the world title on the same night. That would have at least garnered Rey some sympathy from the audience, and it would have made the fans hate Kane more. It's a little sad that, as good a wrestler as Rey Mysterio was and is, he never had a great world championship run. I guess you could argue Rey never really needed it. I mean, look at how popular he is. Someone who could have used a really great world championship reign, though, is number 8, Dolph Ziggler.
No, they sized Dolph Ziggler, chat. I never see, bro. They sized Dolph Ziggler, chat. They must supposed to win more championships. You remember his 2015 run against the Authority? How y'all didn't give him a championship run right there? What are y'all doing?
Basically, Ziggler is a two-time world champion. In 2011,
one time.
Dolph was feuding with the world heavyweight champion Edge on SmackDown. Ziggler was in a relationship with Edge's ex-lover, Vicky Guerrero, who was also in charge of the show. In classic heel fashion, Vicky used her power to help Ziggler and hurt Edge. Ultimately, Guerrero fired Edge and awarded the world title to Dolph. However, SmackDown GM Teddy Long returned that same night, brought back Edge, and
ain't gonna fill
the
nobody
regular
up.
superstar defeated Ziggler to regain the world title. It's difficult even to count this as a world title reign, considering it was so short. However, 2 years later, the show-off would get a proper run with the big gold belt. Sort of. In 2012, Dolph Ziggler won the Money in the Bank contract. He held on to it for months until finally cashing in on the Raw after WrestleMania 29.
Yo, he was beating everybody, but hey, bro, that's like one of the most beat up briefcases of all time. He was whooping everybody with that briefcase.
It was a great moment.
Look at it.
And the crowd's reaction when Ziggler's music hit is one of the loudest in WWE history. It was a great way to win the championship, and Dolph's first real world title reign began with a lot of momentum.
Zigzagging
And it quickly went downhill.
to Jack
now,
Swagger.
Part of this is
He
due
did
to
that to Jack
unforeseen
Swagger?
circumstances. A few weeks after Ziggler won the world championship, he got injured and was out of action for a month. Rather than stripping him of the title, the show-off remained champion. However, this did damage his title
Ooh.
reign. But perhaps what really killed it was WWE themselves. Backstage, Vince McMahon said that Dolph Ziggler was not a top guy, and that Dolph's world title reign was only short-term. It's not surprising then that in Ziggler's first title defense, he lost the World Heavyweight Championship back to Alberto Del Rio.
Go into the fold and
Every
turn
side does it in a
website
career.
layouts into an art form with Wix Studio.
A caliber talent that y'all ain't even realizing like that. That nigga's
This
bugging.
world title reign also felt like it killed Ziggler's popularity with fans. A lot of people were really high on Dolph, but after this, fans realized WWE was never going to push Ziggler to the level they wanted.
he's
And
supposed
because
to
of
be.
that, Ziggler's popularity declined. That's how bad of a world title reign this was. But it still
Oh my
wasn't as
God.
bad as number 7,
Beat the
Rob
shit out
Van
of
Dam. RVD holds an
No
interesting
cap.
record. He's the only WWE World Champion to be arrested while holding the title. But allow me to explain.
Deadass?
At ECW One Night Stand 2006, Rob Van Dam challenged John Cena for the WWE Championship. The two had a
Yeah, Rob
tremendous
Van
match
Dam,
that saw a
bro.
number of crazy shenanigans. This benefited
that was
RVD,
Edge.
and he won the WWE Championship. It was a great victory. However, people forget that at the time, there was some concern that WWE would have stripped Van Dam of the title due to the previously mentioned shenanigans. This ended up not being the case, but in the moment, fans didn't know, and it put a slight damper on the victory. Little did they know what was going to come. RVD would remain WWE Champion for about 3 weeks, but soon, things
Just till
hit
they
the
came back
fan.
for that belt.
While driving in Ohio, Rob Van Dam was pulled over for speeding. RVD was arrested and ended up having to pay a $140 fine. That was nothing though compared
Yeah.
to what happened in WWE.
I love when you use
Immediately, Rob Van Dam was defeated and lost the WWE Championship.
Oh, he lost to
and
Edge.
was then suspended for 30 days. Van Dam's WWE World Championship reign never really got started, and it ended in spectacular fashion. Unfortunately, there were no second chances,
Sweet.
and Rob Van Dam never won another world title in WWE
Ever again.
But hey, neither did number 6, Diesel. Diesel, also known as Kevin Nash,
Just-
is off.
Chat. This guy, Diesel, gave Randy Orton in the Elimination Chamber the biggest jackknife powerbomb I ever witnessed in my life. It was so thunderous. I get goosebumps even talking about that shit. Bro, the biggest jackknife powerbomb I ever seen, bro. You just hear the crowd echo through the whole arena, bro.
regarded as one of the worst WWE World Champions, simply due to a decline in attendance at WWE shows during his reign. In general though, it was less about Diesel being WWE champ and more of a general slump in business that caused this to happen. Now saying that, Diesel was not a great WWE champion. For one, Diesel was a babyface, a good guy. Not inherently bad, but as fans discovered in WCW, Kevin Nash worked much better as a villain. Additionally, because he was a face, Nash had to wrestle against guys like King Mabel, Sid, the British Bulldog, and others. Not bad wrestlers at all, but they just weren't opponents who could bring out the best in Diesel. Even though Diesel was WWE champion for close to a year, he didn't make much of an impact. It just felt like it was a perfect storm of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and unfortunately, Kevin Nash would never touch a WWE World Championship again. This next wrestler wouldn't either, but for more tragic reasons, and that's number 5, Big E. Big E cashing his Money in the Bank contract to win the WWE Championship was a feel-good moment.
It was,
However,
it was.
after that, his title reign was To be honest, not that impressive.
But
there were several issues.
brought this,
One
come
of the
get off
biggest
him.
was that Big E's WWE Championship reign coincided with Roman Reigns' Universal Championship reign and the Bloodline storyline. WWE clearly favored one world champion over the other, and this became very obvious when you look at the pay-per-views. During Big E's 110 days as WWE champion, Roman Reigns invented every pay-per-view event. The only times Big E was in the main event was when he fought Roman Reigns at Survivor Series and lost. Then, Big E was also in the main event at the Day 1 pay-per-view, but that was only because Roman Reigns contracted COVID-19 and couldn't compete. I'm not saying Big E needed to be in every pay-per-view event, but
just give him
prioritizing
something.
Roman Reigns in the Universal Championship
Now
did not help Big E's world
neck
title
injury.
reign. Because of that, there weren't a whole lot of memorable moments during Big E's championship reign, making it feel even more lackluster. To make a lot of memorable
Bobby
moments
Lashley hit his head
during
on
Big
the
E's
damn
championship reign,
steel post.
making it feel even more lackluster.
Yeah, man,
to
they
make
didn't know it
matters
was a Brock.
worse, Big E lost the WWE Championship to Brock Lesnar at the previously mentioned Day 1 event, and was never given his championship rematch. Big E's World Championship reign feels very similar to when CM Punk won the World Heavyweight Championship in 2008, or when Chris Jericho became the undisputed WWE Champion. Despite being the World Champ, all three played second fiddle to either another champion or just other wrestlers on the roster. Unlike Jericho and Punk, though, who went on to have better World Championship reigns, Big E would not. Just a couple of months after losing
right there, oh my
God, Big E would suffer a career-ending injury, not only ending any hopes of a second world title reign, but also preventing him from ever wrestling
on
again.
his fucking
Number 4,
head, bro.
Goldberg. Now, this
Fuck
one might be a
Big E
bit
shit up. Fuck his
controversial.
whole career up,
Goldberg's
man.
very first WWE World title reign in 2003 wasn't awful, but I don't think it was very good either. Part of that may have been
pretty
that
ass.
Goldberg's first
I watched
run
his
in
whole
WWE
2003
in
era.
general was a mixed bag. A lot of the time, WWE had Goldberg in matches that were too long and didn't play to his strengths. Now, when Goldberg returned to WWE in 2016, they worked this out. His matches were much shorter, and Goldberg was able to do what he did best. However, this came at a cost.
Yeah, look at that choke
Goldberg was able
slam!
to do what he did best. However, this came at a cost. And Goldberg was able to do what he did best.
Bro, I never seen
However,
that choke slam.
this
They
came
might
at
have
a
bought him
cost.
ticket.
In
Yeah,
Goldberg's
man,
third
boys
match
old.
since he returned, the Man took on Kevin
I'm thinking,
Owens
bro,
for the
why
Universal
niggas on the
Championship.
goddamn
Goldberg
ceiling?
beat KO in 22 seconds to
Choke
win
slam.
the Universal title. Goldberg carried the belt for a few weeks before losing it to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 33. It was such a short and uneventful title reign, and it was strictly there to give Lesnar and Goldberg's match a bit more hype, which it didn't need at all. Additionally, Owens getting a victory over Goldberg and retaining the Universal title would have done far more for KO than it did for
Definitely would have been
Goldberg.
doing it, yeah.
What makes it even worse is that WWE did it again. 3 years later, Goldberg returned and
Against
defeated
The Fiend
to regain the Universal Championship. And, just like before, Goldberg
Lose it.
carried the title into WrestleMania 36
Lost to Roman Reigns.
and was defeated
Oh, lost
by
to Braun
Braun
Strowman.
Strowman. This was another short and pointless world title
Braun
reign.
Strowman
And
and-
once again, the Fiend Bray Wyatt would have benefited way more from a victory over Goldberg than the other way around. Both of these Universal Championship reigns were just unnecessary. They didn't really help Goldberg, and they actually hurt the people he took the titles from. Number 3, Jack Swagger. I actually personally like Jack Swagger, but even I'll say his
I think
world
Jack
title
Swagger when he
reign
first
was a
came to
flop.
rule out.
Well,
Jack won too.
technically,
Doing
Swagger
push-ups
was
and
a
shit.
two-time world champion.
But-
In early 2009, Swagger won the
Yeah, Jack got
ECW
ass and
Championship,
ass.
which was a world title. That reign was fine, but nothing special. After it was over, the All-American American was moved to Raw. He challenged for the United States title and was part of some bigger storylines, like when he was a member of Team Raw at Bragging Rights. However, Jack Swagger's big moment came at WrestleMania 26. Swagger competed and won the Money in the Bank ladder match, although he had some trouble getting the briefcase down. This would be a foreshadowing of
should
what
get
was
them
to
swinging
come.
around.
Well, he didn't pull a Seth Rollins and cash in during the WrestleMania main
Justin
event.
did not want to
Swagger
catch.
did use his
Justin did not want to let him. Did not want to let bro take the title from. Justin was not gonna let Jack Swagger, bro. I heard the story. Justin said, "I'm not losing to you." Justin was not losing to Jack Swagger.
contract just a few days later,
refused.
defeating the World
He
Heavyweight
refused.
Champion Chris Jericho on SmackDown. Almost instantly, the first problem in Swagger's title reign was revealed. He lost the majority of his matches. Now, to be fair, Jack Swagger was a heel, so he should be beatable. But WWE had Swagger losing to John Morrison and Kofi Kingston, two
Hey,
mid
Kofi Kingston was over.
Even as a heel champion, though, you still need some credibility. And considering where Morrison and Kingston were on the totem pole, Jack Swagger should have definitely beaten them.
They sized
However,
John Morrison
that's
career
not what
too.
made Jack Swagger's world title reign so bad. Swagger wasn't that great on the microphone, and
Hell
wasn't that
no,
compelling
terrible.
or that entertaining of a character. I'll give it to Swagger. He tried, but the man just didn't have it. The All-American needed a manager to do the talking for him, but WWE had nothing. It's not surprising that after this world title reign, WWE paired Swagger with Vicky Guerrero and then Zeb Coulter. Another factor that hindered Swagger's world title reign was the lack of notable championship matches, or memorable moments in general. In fact, Swagger's rematch after he lost the world title was probably the best, since he got thrown into the ocean. Alright,
Hurricane
now,
run into the
there's
ocean is
been
crazy.
two Indian world champions in WWE, the Great Khali and Jinder Mahal. Unfortunately, neither one of them had a great world title reign. I wanted to
the
choose
most
just one
useless
though from
title
the top 10. So,
holders of
who
all
was the
time.
worst champion? Great Khali or Jinder Mahal? The main criticism of Khali's time as world champion was his wrestling ability. He had difficulty moving in the ring and performing moves in general. Mahal, on the other hand, had spent years
Greg moving
mostly
like a
losing
fucking
and was
sloth in that
considered
ring.
in the low mid-card. Then, in the span of a few weeks, he was WWE champion. Again, both of these world title reigns were bad, but which one was
Terrible.
the worst? Well,
Never see- I never see that man
I'm
with a
gonna go
title
with
again.
Jinder Mahal. From
Terrible.
Khali's debut to his winning the World Heavyweight Championship, he was
Holding it upside down.
portrayed as a monster, having even defeated The Undertaker. Jinder Mahal, on the other hand, had been an enhancement talent for years. Nothing wrong with that, and the stuff
Losing
he
to
did with 3MB was
Riley,
great.
Mojo
But
Riley, are you
going from
serious?
that to WWE champion didn't feel believable.
At
He
all.
played Mahal's entire
I'm
WWE
like-
championship
Who giving Jinder Mahal a motherfucking championship? This nigga ass.
reign. On top of that, the average quality of Mahal's
And what made it worse? They made him lose, bro. They made Randy Orton lose, bro. They made Jinder Mahal beat Randy Orton, bro. One of the worst losses in Randy Orton's career, bro. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. They made this man Randy Orton lose to Jinder fucking Mahal, my nigga. I was so mad, bro. I'm like, oh, what y'all niggas doing making this man lose to Jinder fucking Mahal? A 14-time champion losing to trash.
matches as WWE champ weren't great. That's not surprising though, considering Jinder went from wrestling 3 to 5 minute matches to being put in pay-per-view main events in a very short time. That's a lot to learn, and WWE didn't give Jinder the time to learn it. It was just a recipe for disaster, and it makes Jinder the second worst WWE World Champion.
Terrible.
But who's below that? Well, before we get to that, here are a few dishonorable mentions. Alberto Del Rio. I was thinking of including the Mexican aristocrat on this list, primarily because of his 2 pointless WWE Championship reigns in 2011. Yes,
Hyundai Santa Fe versus
I
Chevy
like
Blazer.
the champion.
Look
Yeah,
what
he has
Santa
some pretty
Fe
good matches,
has
in my opinion.
and what Blazer doesn't.
he did win that title 2 times. However, Del Rio's time as World Heavyweight Champion was good, especially his matches with Rob Van Dam. And since we're basing this list on all of a wrestler's world title reigns, I couldn't include Del Rio. Sergeant Slaughter. One of the earliest examples of a transitional champion.
guy was a champion?
Slaughter won the WWE Championship in 1991, defeating the Ultimate Warrior at the Royal Rumble.
You
The
mean the
only
name
reason
Ultimate
WWE
Warrior?
had Slaughter win the world title was so that he could lose it to Hogan at WrestleMania 7. You're really at a disadvantage when your title reign exists just for it to end. Making matters worse is that fans weren't even that interested in Slaughter and Hogan's feud. WWE actually had to move WrestleMania 7 to a smaller venue because ticket sales were so low. Unfortunately for Slaughter, he had to bear having a pretty lousy world title reign. Additional dishonorable mentions go out to world champions like Andre the Giant, Finn Balor, Stan Stasiak, Ezekiel Jackson.
Finn Balor's title reign was only bad because he had to relinquish it due to an injury, bro. And it never did anything with him again. Like he's not a top caliber super fucking star in WWE.
Jackson, and others who are really short. I didn't include any of these on the main top 10 because they never got started. Plus, guys like Andre and Finn Balor were
Finn Balor
at
had
least
some-
worthy of being world champions, and if
No
they had
cap.
proper title reigns, it's reasonable to assume they would have been
Sling
world
Blade, I
champions.
love that Sling Blade.
Alright, now it's time for number 1.
Sheamus?
The worst world
I was about to
champion
say.
in WWE history is Vince McMahon.
Hell yeah.
It's hard to believe, but Vince
don't know why
McMahon
the man
is
wanted
a
a championship.
2-time world champion.
I don't know why he
His
wanted it
first world
so
title reign
bad.
came when he won the WWE Championship in late 1999. On an episode of SmackDown, McMahon, with some help from Stone Cold Steve Austin, defeated the WWE Champion Triple H. More than anything, this was done just for shock value, because a few days later on Raw, McMahon vacated the title. It's painful to see the owner of a company give themselves the championship, especially the world title, but at least it was over quickly. That was not the case with Vince McMahon's second world championship reign though. In
ECW
2007,
champion.
McMahon was feuding with Bobby Lashley as part of the Battle of the Billionaires feud with Donald Trump. Lashley was ECW world champion at the time, so McMahon set up a 3-on-1 handicap match.
And they can't go
Vince
against it 'cause he's the
Umaga
man-
and
he
Shane
owns
McMahon
the shit.
fought Lashley for the ECW title. The numbers won out, and Vince McMahon became the new ECW champion. It's always lame when a non-wrestler wins a championship, but it's especially lame when it's a world title. Yes, wrestling is all scripted, but the World Championships mean something, and the ECW Championship meant a lot. This is the same title that guys literally took years off their lives to fight for.
No
And
cap,
now here
bruh.
it was around Vince
And
McMahon's
I said, "Oh, this nigga was-"
WWE's version of ECW was dead on arrival, but this was the fatal blow, both to the ECW brand and the World Championship. Making matters worse was how long McMahon's title reign went on for. Like I said, Vince's WWE title reign was over as soon as it started, but his ECW title reign lasted over a month. It felt even longer with how often Vince McMahon would appear on both Raw and ECW, do-rag and all. Now, being a bad champion is one thing, but what about making a bad return? To see which wrestlers had the worst returns of all time, watch the video.